three things. You have to know what persuades an audience. Know what persuades an audience. The first thing to know about persuading an audience is that people are persuaded. What are people persuaded by? They're persuaded by the person's credibility. Well, I don't know about that. I guess, is this on? Let's turn this up. Can you read that okay? Yes. Okay, there we go. An audience is persuaded by a speaker's credibility. Now, some people say that credibility can be established by the person's expertise, by their references to books, scholarly material. You start with a certain amount of credibility. For example, Jerry introducing me as a professor might have given me some credibility. If I refer to other speeches or something during my speech, maybe that adds credibility. Who knows? But you have to show respect for your audience, establish common grounds, and so on to have credibility with your audience. To be credible with your audience, you must be sincere. You must tell them the truth. That is, you must be an ethical speaker. If your audience can tell if you're being sincere with them. Another thing is that people are persuaded by evidence. If you make statements, you need to back them up with research. Audiences are skeptical of unsupported claims. So, for example, if you say, well, Dr. Paul Eklund is the expert on phasics, okay? You want to cite evidence. Where did I get this? Okay, on pauleckler.com, for example. You can cite where you get your information, it should be credible information. You don't want to have to tell your audience, well, yes, I heard this from Bill Riley on Fox News or something like that. Maybe you want to tell them that, I don't know. Also, people are persuaded by your reasoning. You try to use sound logic. So that will persuade people. Also, people are persuaded by the audience's ability to engage their emotions. If I want you to do something that's important, if I really care about this person that's beside me, okay, this person who's accused of murder, okay, and I believe this person's innocent, will I be emotional about it? Of course I'm going to be emotional about it. I don't want you convicting this person, right? So I will be emotional about it. You use your sincere emotions because that's enthusiasm displayed. Audiences are persuaded by the enthusiasm of a speaker. It shows your honesty, shows your integrity. Be yourself. If you're yourself and you're straightforward with your audience knows that. They can tell that. And enthusiasm is contagious. It spreads. Your audience will like it. Another thing you can do to overcome nervousness, excuse me, when I talk about that, I went back. What did I do? I went back to my wrong notepad. Which tells you something. I rarely use PowerPoint. Second gold key is be fully prepared. Now, let me tell you something, a side story about that. Be fully prepared. Do research. Go to the library. Interview witnesses. Email people, possible experts. Get information from them. Organize your speech. And here's where I told you problem solution, problem cause solution, Monroe's motivated sequence, and then, introduction, body, conclusion. And then, to be prepared, you must practice your speech. You go through it. You know the introduction cold, you practice it all the way through a couple times to measure, and that's quite enough. And then, on to delivery. You must make a powerful delivery. You have to show enthusiasm, controlled rate and pitch, show physical action, and maintain eye contact. Now, let me tell you something about your language too. When you select your language for a speech, your language should be vivid. Okay, it should be colorful. It should be clear. Your audience should know the words that you're using. Okay. Also, another thing you should do, if you really want to get good at it, is you try to develop a certain rhythm in your speech. You can develop a rhythm in your speech by using thesis and antithesis. Okay, the opposites. Okay, the rich and the poor. Okay, the strong, the weak, the whatever. Okay, by using thesis, antithesis. You can also develop rhythm by using certain word patterns. Martin Luther King developed a certain rhythm with his speeches. If you've never seen a speech of his, see his. He could engage in really fine rhetoric because he knew how to do it. He was trained himself. But JFK, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, former President of the United States, was assassinated, developed rhythm in his speeches. He would connect one sentence to the other sentence, to the next sentence, to the next sentence. He always did. Unfortunately, Kennedy wasn't good at gesturing. He was very well organized in his speeches, but his gestures were limited to this and this. This and this. This and this. Those were his gestures. Adolf Hitler was an outstanding public speaker. Okay? But you know how he got people together based on hate. Okay? And he did so by, he persuaded people by spectacle. That is, he had his main speeches at night with fires around, and then Hitler developed his own set of gestures. He went, this is hard for me to do because I've seen him do it. Okay? He'd go like this. Okay? And he'd stand there and he'd say something like this. Okay? And he would always like this or like this. And just makes chills go up my back to think of it. But some people will tell you, don't gesture. Don't use your hands. Keep them down at your sides. It's not normal. It's not normal. Use your hands. They're very expressive. Use gestures like this. Be careful about your hand, though, because sometimes some gestures what I do in the United States might be a bad symbol in your country, okay, in your culture. So you want to be very careful about that. If I say, okay, this is a sign for okay in the United States. In some countries, this means the same thing as the middle finger. Okay? So you want to be careful about that. You have to know that. In Greece, this is a terribly rude gesture. This, very bad. You don't do that to a Greek. So you want to think about your gestures. You think about all these things, and maybe you'll give better speeches. Let me stop. I don't want to go too long. You'll have to pay me too much overtime. Do you have any questions?
I just want to address, someone asked a question about language, about their English, and this is just a suggestion, but I've noticed this, for example, when I have to use my very limited Arabic. If I stray from words that I don't know, I feel uncomfortable. And so I think for my approach to using Arabic, which I'm sure that I have less Arabic than you have English, much less. But if you feel uncomfortable in using, let's say, too wide of a list of words, or if you look at your presentation and you think, wait a minute, I'm not familiar with these words, but I am comfortable with these other words, and they mean the same thing. Stick with what you know, because then you'll be more comfortable. It goes back to the comfort question. So that's just from my experience.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So sometimes in speech we don't find the word that we just block it. We can't find something to say. Sometimes it's all about one word. If we don't find it,
Try to avoid that word. That's all I can say. What can I say? Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Keeping it very simple. Here, we'll just turn that off.
Okay. Any questions, comments, anything? Okay, there you go. Thank you so much for listening.
I did not turn it off.
Okay.